want some little bit of sparkles on
I
it.
wasn't so you got a
And it just
notification. Did
uses
you?
a shader that does
No, it's
UV
soft here.
scroll
It's like
through
9
you.
degrees.
So it looks like you
Oh,
just
that's hot.
pulling
Yeah.
it on.
You say 9, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. We are live.
Yes, we are.
Heads up, guys. This event is being live streamed, so if there's anything you want to catch up on later, you can check it out on our YouTube, Banter VR. Yeah, this is Space Makers. Thanks everybody for coming. You might see me bobbing up and down a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll just ignore that. Anybody in the new build might see this platform going completely crazy. Just ignore that. That's not happening at all. Everything is cool. Welcome to Space Makers. This is a weekly event where we basically talk about how to create spaces here in Banter, right? So, and honestly, a lot of other things too. It's pretty much just an AMA. So one thing I usually do, a lot of new faces actually in here today, but I just point to the website here behind me. I think it is definitely one of the best resources to get to. Top right, you've got two links, the docs and the Discord. Those are probably the most valuable links. Discord especially, because you'll get to come in and hang out with all of us, where there's lots of people. We're building worlds, we're building avatars, we're hosting events, and we're talking about it. So definitely a great place to go. How we usually do this over here, we've got a podium. You can make your way up the little ramp and then onto the podium if you've got a question to ask. The podium is slippery, so get ready for that. You're going to need to slam the brakes on as soon as you come up over the edge. But if you do overshoot and go too far, that's it. You've got to go to the back of the line. Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff you can expect to keep hearing from me until people go and stand in the queue and start asking questions. I tend to just waffle on. As anybody in the room who's Irish will know, it's a skill that we've got. It's called the gift of the gab. You can just talk nonsense. I'm going to call on Eamon randomly at the back to demonstrate this. Eamon, what beautiful poetry have you got for us?
I never talk nonsense. Everything I say is absolutely insightful and possibly ingenious.
Tried the tennis game.
See, there you go. See, that in its very self demonstrates my point. And here's the thing: sometimes I'm waffling so much that I forget that there's somebody actually there and that they have a question.
It's really hard.
The only pony. Tell me, what have you got for us?
Or something.
I'm going to ask my usual question. How's the SDK coming on?
Great question. Are you on the new build?
I am, yes. You're bouncing around like crazy. Not really. No, you're fine.
Nice.
Not moving at all.
Well,
I can see
you can see,
and I'm on Steam.
Oh, maybe you see me bouncing. Do you see the platform itself bouncing?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yes,
platform.
I do.
Yeah,
Yes, it's bouncing.
Oh well, maybe it's because Bob's underneath there trying to hold it.
No, it's been doing it the whole time.
He's got it now. It's not moving at all.
Interesting. Maybe it's always been broken on desktop then. Who knows? But look, to answer your question, Pony, the fact that we've got a number of people who are running the new build now is a great indicator of how well the new SDK is doing. About 90 to 95% of the work is now in what you've got here. All of the worlds that are loading in, they're loading in with the new SDK. I kind of realized after we put this out that for me, it's been a really big build up to get to here, but in a lot of cases, oh boy.
We've lost him.
Whoa, what happened? Why am I over here?
So anybody on the new build got teleported back to the start. I'd say it's probably related to looking down. Don't look down. That's looking down will get you banned. But
just don't move.
Yes, anybody on the new build, you might get respawned, right? Okay, bugs.
I'm
love
safe.
them.
I'm holding on.
That's a good shout. I might actually do that myself. Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's the fact that it is working the same as what we have right now is a great sign. For anybody who's new, that sound you just heard was lightning that comes down to smite those who get kicked or banned from the space. That's how our kicking and banning system works. But yeah, I mean, even with the bugs that we've got here, I'm still feeling pretty positive about
there's
this
very
release.
few.
And Yeah, there's definitely a couple of issues, and we're tracking what people are reporting in the Discord, and we've got a list as well internally that we're still working on. I had actually hoped we could just go for a full release this weekend, but at the last minute we decided just to put out a sneaky APK because I just didn't want to go hell for leather, especially with PCVR, which we haven't had a full opportunity to test, and we really need to make sure that it's working well. But yeah, it's going to be out for everybody early to mid next week. We have a new start engineer starting on Monday, so that will take a little bit of our attention, as well as a new QA guy, right? Can never hurt to have more QA. But yeah, the hope there is that they can accelerate the process. We can get the actual SDK plugin out that people can start to use inside of Unity. Now, this plugin, I think, goes further than most in that it's basically about 60% of the game that we've isolated into a standalone plugin that is then used in the game, the one that you're using right now, and also can be used inside the Unity editor. So yeah, when you get it, the new SDK will let you hit play inside of Unity and will let you load up all of your web page and scripts and all of your stuff exactly like it would be in Banter. We've even got a basic character controller for you to use in Unity, and it actually supports VR, right? Because it's a VR platform, and it'd be nice to be able to test while you're building in VR. So that will be supported. I've used that a lot. You might have seen some videos on the Discord of me testing out some two-handed interaction on a paintball game that I'm making, where you're pulling the barrel back and stuff to reload and whatever else. But yeah, SDK I think is going pretty good. It's honestly been a relief the last day or two. It's honestly been traumatic, if I'm honest, to build the SDK over the last 2.5 months.
Yes.
But I'm really glad that we are where we are, and very soon we'll be looking at trying to squash, I think, the last bugs off the back of this release. But yeah, the fact that so many complicated things out there are still working the way that they are is fantastic. That's exactly what we're looking for, and it's a whole new guts, entirely different. And if anybody is interested and has the new build, a large portion of the SDK is JavaScript based. All of that is available in this current build that's out right now that you can actually start to play with. So if anybody is interested in having a look at that, I can point you in the direction of where you can start to kind of poke and prod and see what is possible and how that is generally going to work. I can even share a script from the paintball game I mentioned that you can have a look at to see how things are really going to work with the new SDK. But yeah, I think one thing that's probably worth mentioning, up until now, we've been fairly heavily leaned into a platform called AFRAME, which is a JavaScript 3D entity component system, I guess, is really what it is. And we're moving away from that with this new SDK. And whilst it will still support that through the means of a polyfill or a shim that we've created, the new recommended way will be to use JavaScript directly and to start to build your new worlds that way. So yeah, I'd say don't worry too much about what that means for now. Things aren't going to be drastically different to what you're familiar with, and we're going to produce a lot of material for you to be able to play with and use as an example, or do whatever you like, right? We're going to be working on a couple of different games internally, which we hope to polish enough for them to become fully fledged flagship games on the platform, but we'll also be releasing the full source code, project assets, everything. They'll just be available as a sample you can import into Unity and play around with. So SDK, it was a big milestone this weekend, and it is definitely really exciting to be standing here in the new build and for it to be even working at all. So yeah, SDK is
It
great.
runs
Thanks
smoothly. It's brilliant. It runs so smooth. I don't want to go back.
Yeah. There's
Apart from bowling don't work. Bowling's broke. Just don't play bowling.
Yeah, I need to get to that. I do plan to go through as many worlds as possible and work with people to get them fixed, right? Because we're not trying to break things here. That's the last thing we want to do. Behind the scenes,
There's only ever a temporary
these...
patch.
Gotcha.
There's only ever temporary till we got the new version, so that's not an issue.
Well, if we can, I'd love to be able to see if we can get it working, even just for the benefit of having that, if we find issues, there could be issues that affect other things too. So being able to try and fix those. But otherwise, I'm open to seeing if we can maybe collaborate and work towards something with the new SDK, if that makes more sense. So yeah,
That'll make more sense. Let's get bowling up there.
I'm excited about
Yeah.
being on the other side of that conversation now pretty soon, where I'm using the tools I've been working to build over the last few months, and actually using them to now build games, right? And getting my team up to speed with continually extending and maintaining this new SDK. But that should be a pretty easy thing to do given the way that we've built it. So hopefully it'll be very easy to add lots of functionality and features in future.
Yes.
Thank you, Pony.
That's all right.
So now
Next.
this is where I revert back to my waffling stage. I've seen Barry here in front of me a few times, and he's in and out, and I can't hear him. I'm not sure if there's something wrong with his audio or not. But yeah, so as I've said, you've got the podium. If you've got a question, feel free to jump up. I'll be more than happy to answer. You can ask me about anything at all, except Nistex's skull head. You can't ask me about that.
Is it
And you
worth
can't ask me
talking
about
about
Triffitt's humming.
the new hosting that we're doing now? There, you'll see that one of the spaces now is on there now. It's second in featured spaces. The new
Oh,
band.
really?
So check that out. Yeah,
Which one?
check it out. I switched it over just now. The
Which
Big
one?
City Nights.
Gotcha.
And
Yeah, it's definitely worth noting. To date, we've mainly relied on a third party for somewhere for people to generally put their worlds that they're building, right? And we talked about this before, I think a little bit, but as Bob rightly said, we've now rolled it out and we're already using it in production. But we can now host your worlds directly on SideQuest, and we plan to make that a fully integrated thing. So it's just one button to build and upload, and it will do all the rest of it for you, right? So that is something that we're going to be probably migrating a lot of our own worlds onto in the coming weeks in order to test it and make sure everything is good. And then when the rest of the Unity plugin is available, it will be built in to that. But you'll find that if you do check out your space and go to the section where you verify your space, there's now an option to enable SideQuest hosting, and from there you can just upload your asset bundles, and you can upload your index.html and your JavaScript as well, all there, and then it gets hosted on our servers. So obviously the reason we've been doing this is because when we heavily rely on third parties as much as we have, sometimes they have problems, their problems compound on top of our problems, and we want to only deal with our problems as much as we can, right? That makes as much sense, I think, right? So yeah, I think we just want to be able to provide a SideQuest hosting option so that people have an easy option that's one click and they don't have to care about glitch and uploading and AFRAME and HTML and all of that noise. And then, yeah, also have something that's reliable, right? That we know if our service is down, you can't get into the game at all. Fair enough. Then it doesn't matter that some of the worlds also aren't loading, right? But having somebody else's service go down when ours is perfectly fine is obviously not something we want to, But yeah, so if you want to have a look at that, feel free. You can see it. You can swap between external hosting or SideQuest hosting. External is what we've always had to date, let's say, where you put in a URL and you verify it by putting in that little metadata or meta tag into the page. So you won't need to verify in future with the SideQuest hosted world. So that whole step will be removed as well. And we've also set up a custom web address, right, for you guys to be able to create your worlds, right? So instead of right now .glitch.me, the one that we've set up is .bant.ing. So whenever you enable the SideQuest hosting, it will generate a 5-character code, and it'll be code.bant.ing. That's going to be the address of your space. And we can also do custom subdomains or custom slugs for those addresses too. Right now, those are staff only. So feel free to reach out to us if you want us to set one of those on your space. That's definitely something we can do. They are obviously first come, first serve. So you want to make sure and reserve pony.bant.ing. That'll be your web address, for instance, to
Yes,
your
I'm
world.
reserving that one.
I want that one. I want it.
No, it's mine.
In the future, you'll be able to just register and link your own custom slugs on there. But right now, we're just limiting it to staff so things don't get out of hand and somebody doesn't come in and swipe a load of them, right? But yeah, reach out to any of us, any of our staff, and if you want to get one on there, we can set it up on your world, and then you can have a more memorable word or address, right, for people to be able to find your world. Now, obviously, we have the worlds mostly featured here in Banter, but we are thinking about the future when people might want to have private worlds and they might not want them to be featured. So that 5-character code that it generates right now actually serves as a room code. Okay, so if anybody's familiar with Big Screen or any other platform where you have to put in a code to get to the room, that's kind of how that can work as well in future, right? Is that you enter the code, you hit the button to add .bant.ing, and then hit join, and that will bring you to the room direct. So yeah, yeah, I don't see anybody lining up there, so I'll just continue to waffle. Oh, well, hang on, I've got Lee who's jumping in. Do you want to hold for a sec?
Well,
Oh no, well, Lee's now being courteous and he doesn't want you. Can you guys like going
Go
back
ahead,
and
go ahead.
forth over and over, letting each other go? Go ahead, Lee. Go ahead, Shiseki. Go ahead, Lee. Go ahead, Shiseki. And then both of you go at exactly the same time, like trying to get
go
through a
ahead.
door.
They need to duel.
And then none
Go
of you
ahead.
go. None of you get.
Go
You
ahead.
just get pissed at each other and like
Really,
send
just
each
go.
other nasty, slide
Go.
into each other's DMs. What the fuck? Okay, go, Shiseki. Sure. Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, there's a few areas I guess that covers, and it's broad, right? Because I think when you're talking about just events and event driven sort of programming and how all of that can work, it is quite broad. I think in a nutshell, there are certain life cycle events right now. They kind of exist in two forms. There's a kind of a legacy section within the new SDK where we've kind of bundled everything together that's part of the old SDK that we aren't going to make kind of first party features in the new SDK, right? So those are kind of included there, but kind of isolated in a way, let's say. And in that case, I'll give you an example, right? So the current SDK, you've got like load done callback, which fires on the window whenever Unity has finally loaded up all of the assets and the loading screen has faded out. Then that event fires. So that event is obviously still there for backwards compatibility purposes, but it's not something we necessarily need with the new SDK. That being said, the new SDK still has similar lifecycle events. You'll have, there's a scene ready event that fires. That's after objects stop being added for at least 500 milliseconds. It'll fire a scene ready event to try to start loading things. Then you get a Unity ready event, which is when everything is loaded. It's downloaded all the textures, all the asset bundles, all the whatevers, and loaded them up, and they're all in the space. Then you'll get events for when users join and users leave, including details of the user and all that kind of stuff. You get events for, as you rightly said, things like interacting. So you can have like click events for clicking on UI. You can have grab events for grabbing things and dropping things. You can have, I mean, there's a number of different events. I mean, right now, we've covered off the basis of pretty much everything that we've done with the existing SDK, so that everything works. Everything is backwards compatible. There's a number of additional events kind of built into the new SDK, like a game object will fire an event when it gets updated. A component on a game object will fire an event when it gets updated. So there's ways to kind of hook in and know when things have changed, stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, there's probably a few that I'm not mentioning as I sort of think about them right now, but yeah, there will certainly be a full comprehensive documentation that will explain all of those different events. And those are just specific to, what we're doing. I realize I didn't explain what your question was, Shiseki, so the stream has no idea what I'm talking about. But yeah, I mean, that's the events in terms of, how you'll kind of interact that way and the sort of stuff that we'll document, let's say. When it comes to Unity, Unity events in the inspector and also Unity visual scripting, right, which is something that we're also going to be able to support. You might find that one interesting, Nova, if you've ever played with visual scripting in Unity. Um, so obviously there's a whole event system within there as well, and you can hook into all sorts of different things like collision events, trigger events. Lots of different things can be driven by events there, and those are slightly different, right, to Unity events, and they're also different to our SDK events. Different in that, they happen in different environments, they happen in different languages, they happen in different interfaces. Lots of different reasons, I guess, while they're different. But all of those things are fundamentally the same thing. They're just events that fire based on whatever it is you're doing, you know. Uh, Not, I mean, potentially. The problem is that there isn't really a logic environment that involves writing dynamic code in Unity. So listening to those events, yeah, I mean, you could probably fire Unity things. We could certainly have a bridge that would allow you to fire Unity events from sort of JavaScript, whatever that might be, or fire an event into a visual scripting graph that then can go through whatever logic the graph has got after the event is fired. So yeah, in a nutshell, I would say that's definitely going to be possible. Chat, no problem. Okay, Lee, go ahead.
Yeah, this is kind of a question for kind of somebody else.
Oh no.
Do you, how do you feel about third person view?
In
Like
VR?
being able to see your avatar outside your body instead of.
It's interesting. I think that in some games I've played, they've kind of focused on that, right? Like Moss is a game that kind of does that, or Trover Saves the Universe is another one that does it, where you're taking that sort of third person bird's eye view. I'm not too sure. In my experience, that typically disconnects you from the character, and that you feel like that's somebody separate. You are controlling them, but it's about as isolated from them as you might be if you were to play it in like, a typical pancake game, I guess. Hey, Peroxide. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I honestly,
Well, like
I
if
don't
they
know.
were doing some type of emote that you could only see that was local to you, like
So you want to be able to
dancing
see.
or.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I guess mirrors is how people have usually tackled this, right? Rather than going down the third person camera, you just have a mirror that people, or a
Right.
or a selfie camera or something like that that you can look at to take a picture and see how
Right.
what that is or what you're doing. Third person's interesting. Honestly, I've never really considered it. Obviously, for 2D mode, it could make a lot of sense.
Definitely 2D.
Yeah,
I
it
wouldn't
could.
say
I think it
VR.
could make a
VR
lot
would
of
be
sense
weird.
in 2D. Yeah. VR would be strange. I definitely think it would be strange. I mean, if it was the sort of thing that we could do it and have that kind of camera system built in for 2D, it's probably not that much of a stretch to also support that for VR. But I'd be interested to see how many people would engage with
use it.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome. Or you could have like an external camera where you can pull out and see your avatar from a third perspective. Yes.
Yes, I
Yes,
agree.
there's a selfie camera at the back of the room. In fact, anybody who wants to see their avatar, there's a selfie camera at the back of the room if you want to go and grab it and have a look. There is a synced version, but I don't believe that one is synced. But if you grab the handle with one hand, it'll enable it. And everybody gets their own one, so you can just grab it and take it away with you. And it will take 6K photos and store them into your headset's gallery. So it's really neat. But yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, a selfie camera makes a lot of sense. I think our approach to this, in order to give people a preview, if I think that's what we're talking about, right? You want a preview of your own avatar, maybe, when you're picking it or building it, especially.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
could be. But to be able to see your avatar, you know, we are working on a full 3D avatar system. And if you've ever seen how the box works in Bone Lab, right, where you're kind of standing in front of it and you can see a mirror of your avatar moving around as you move. That's kind of how we visualized it in future, to be able to let people preview their avatars and see how they look and be able to change avatar using a system like that. You all right there, Nistex? Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's one possibility, right? But there could be a number of different ways we could do it. I think definitely,
Well, I
you know,
mean, that was just one of the people asked me from Sansar, and I said, I can't, I mean, I don't really see a big use case for it unless you, the only thing over there is they do it to watch themselves dance,
yes,
you know,
it's interesting.
to,
It's really interesting.
Yeah,
And I
that's
guess Samsar
hilarious.
is like a 2D app as standard, right, with a VR mode. So I guess it
right.
makes sense there why that might be a priority, to have a third-person view as standard and maybe be able to leverage that in VR too. It feels like we've been moving I mean, I don't know. I remember a time where it was like everything was about first person, right? Everybody wanted first person view. Uh, you know, back when GTA 5 kind of came out, wasn't that the biggest deal about that? Was that it was fully first person. There was no parts where it would sort of take you out of that first person mode if that's what you wanted. And people were like all about that immersion that sort of comes with that. But it's interesting to see that
Right.
kind of come full circle now, where people want the third person view.
But yeah,
But
I think, yeah, you're right. I think it would probably be better in 2D.
yeah,
Because most of the people over there are in 2D, so
yes. Well, yeah, I mean that's the thing about Sansar, right? Isn't it? It's that
yeah,
it's definitely
yeah,
a 2D platform. It launched as a 2D platform with a VR mode,
definitely.
right? That you could turn on after you launched it, sort of thing. What have you got for us, Shoseki? I feel like you're about to say something.
Mm.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Hi there. How are you doing?
Hi.
Is this your first time?
Yeah.
Welcome. You've got a randomly generated name. Do you want to know what it is?
Nope.
Okay. Well, you've also got 2 balls, and if you sign up, we will take your balls away, and you'll have no balls.
What?
And you can't get them back.
Oh no.
So how does that make you feel?
I'm not gonna.
I didn't understand that.
Can I keep it?
You can keep your balls.
Thank you.
No problem. Anytime.
Sorry.
Oh, hey Kurt, how you doing? Sorry, I was waffling on about balls over here. Go ahead. What do we got for us? You're muted, Kurt, if you're talking.
Thanks. I was been talking and nothing there. All right. The APK, can that be installed on a Quest 1 or is that pushing it?
Oh, I'd love to see what happens if you did. But yeah, Quest 1 is quite. I mean, they've ended support for it now entirely on MetaQuest platform, right? So you're not able to
Right.
push updates. It's unfortunate. It may work. In fact, we've done a fair amount in terms of performance with this new APK, so chances are it could even improve things on somewhere like Quest 1 where performance would be a big deal. The truth is, I think this app might be targeting a newer version of Android than they ever let Quest 1 be on. As far as I know, it's still on Android 7, and we're on Android maybe, I don't know, 11 or something now, or newer even, on the later Quest platform. So it might out of the gate go, I'm not going to let it on, for that reason. But yeah, Quest 1 started it all, really, I think. But the Quest 3, honestly, is in almost every way like 5x the performance of it from CPU and GPU. So it is really a tall order to try to support it now at the minute as well. Great for PC VR, though. Really good for PC VR. Great value for money for PC VR, I would say. Thanks, Kurt.
Yep.
Pony.
I'm back again. A while ago, you had a team working for you to give us the ability to fly. How's that?
Yes.
How's that coming on?
That's coming along really well, I hope. We're going to be connecting with that team again pretty soon to see where they are on that, right? But right now, I've got it slated for around August on the roadmap for us to be able to get it into the game. So the hope is, that there's not too much complication when it comes to integrating that. And it was written, as far as I understand, as a standalone piece that was primarily integrated into the Unreal Engine first. So those guys are basically working to port that across to Unity for us to be able to integrate in here. So yeah, August is when we hope for that to be available.
Marvelous, thank you.
Cheers, Pony. Nice one. Kalima, talk to me.
Hi. I do think it's important that we be able to fly up and just hang and converse and just be up in the sky, because I
Yes.
really love that aspect about all space, just being up in the air and looking down. And so we were talking earlier about the flapping and all that, and I think that's great. That's great to get up, but I don't want to fall as soon as I stop flapping. So that's all I want to say. I just want to bring that up again and say, please, please, please.
Yeah.
That's all.
No, I appreciate that. And I think I know what you're talking about. I think there's been plenty of scenarios in the past, where we're using something like the flight pen and you've got real precision to be able to just bring yourself around nice and slowly and position yourself the way you want. Yeah, I mean, right now there's two mechanics we're looking at, and whether both of them will be integrated into the game or not is still something we're discussing, let's say, right? But one of them, as you've said, is supposed to work by literally flapping your arms, and then if you've played Pop 1 or maybe Zenith, you can think of it as similar to that, although the mechanic feels a little bit different, let's say, if you are familiar with those ones. But it's a similar sort of thing, I guess, that you're going for. The other one that we've been working with involves, it's kind of like Superman, right? In that, you sort of put your fists out in front of you and then you press a button and you just shoot off like that, like a jet way off into the,
Nice.
and then you fly around and you bring your fists together and you get a power boost. And that one's quite interesting, but it needs some really large scale spaces in order for it to work. But I'm sure there are some things out there. I'm sure there's a version of Lower Manhattan on Sketchfab that would be really cool to fly around. But yeah, I mean, maybe there's a way we could have something where you could like maybe lock yourself midair or something with some buttons that might stop you so that you can just anchor yourself there. And then, maybe you can then release to let yourself go and then take over with whichever flight mechanic, let's say, it is that you're using.
Yeah,
So,
that would be
yeah.
great. The only thing I don't know if you've ever been into Multiverse, and they made this big deal about coming up with a flight thing eventually, and it's like a backpack, jetpack kind of thing. Reminds me of the old 1960s Lost in Space, if you ever saw that, where
Right.
right.
Love that.
And it's horrible. It's awful. I was excited to be able to fly in there, and they came out with it, and it's like, oh my god, this is awful. It makes a horrible noise, and it's just this big bulky thing, and it's like, oh my god, what the hell are they thinking? So just just don't do something like that to us.
Gotcha. No, I appreciate
Okay.
that. This is actually a really interesting flight mechanic, and the guys who've been working on it have been working on it for over a year before we started to engage with them on it. So it's been really heavily polished, and we've spent a fair bit of money securing a license for it. So the hope is that it won't be an afterthought. It should be something that's really nice, really intuitive, really smooth and comfortable. That's our hope, right? But let's see how it goes. If it is crap on day one, I want to know all about it, right? So that we can try to make it better.
All right.
And I think it'll be the sort of thing that, much like the Spider-Man or the ability to teleport, that the space can control that. It can turn that off or turn it on at will, right? To decide whether or not you should be able to do it, unless you're a dirty hacker and you just inject some JavaScript into the debugger and you can do whatever the hell you want. Didn't hear that here though, right, Shoseki? You can scrub that from the live stream, right? That's great. And to the millions of people at home, why are you watching this? I can't believe this got televised.
You didn't hear that.
Walkabout mini golf
Yeah.
is a good flight mechanic.
Just this is an idea. You could like squat, and you could have
Oh.
like flames come out your butt, like a
Oh.
and then left up like that. Yeah.
Oh,
Just,
you know what? That might be right up our alley, if I'm honest, virtually.
yeah. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
He needs
that
relief,
sounds
Shane.
pretty awesome.
Lock it in.
Lock it in. Yeah, lock that in. I love it. Okay, Ark, I see that you're up on the podium, but now it looks like you might be pooping. So I'm just going to megaphone you so we can all hear that.
He's
in
trying to
great
fly.
detail. He's going to launch any moment now. Everybody, just don't take your eyes off him, because when it happens, he will be gone like a fucking bat out
The
of
gas
hell.
is not building.
Let's all try and guess what we think he might ask when he comes back. I would say it's going to be more of an out there question, because I know Ark, and
It's going to be
we've
deep.
had some questions before, and
There
then we
you go.
did we actually have
Okay.
an AMA on
He's awake.
Friday evenings just because of Ark.
Sorry, I was crashing.
He's going to ask about Vision Pro.
That was an elegant crash, I have to say. You came out of it
Oh,
perfectly.
graceful.
Oh, now he's gone.
Nope. Oh boy.
Oh, no.
Spoke too soon.
It's crazy. How does it make him like? Have I done this?
The
Is this
brace
something in the new
dancing.
build?
Yes.
Just you crash and it puts your hands up in the air. Oh man, I'm not sure what it is. It's interesting. Have you got the new build? That would definitely be useful to know. Because if you don't, then
In
I
the
don't
bin.
care.
Moving on.
Oh, it's great. It's great. We can just draw a line in the sand and be like, all previous issues are now rescinded. And the new build solves everything. And we didn't fix any of them, but we just rewrote it all. So chances are we have a whole new range of problems. Oh. Pony? Nice. Oh, you've got a little
bouncing
bounce
everywhere.
going.
Yes,
A little
man.
harmony. Nice.
Yeah, I just got to ask on the new build that I'm on now.
Yes.
What is the spawn avatar button? Because I pressed it yesterday because I couldn't see anybody, and suddenly you were rolling around on the floor in front of me, and I thought, what?
Okay. So I should probably explain. The spawn avatar button is a way for me personally to express myself to all of you guys. And I've recorded a bunch of my own personal artistic expressions into the game. And then you can just press that and it will pick from a list at random. Actually, There's one of peroxides in there, and I think there's one of statics in there if you press it hard enough. There's also one of Bob's in there. But it's an avatar testing tool. It's hilarious, but it's designed to help you test your world. If you've got nobody else in there, you can slam 30 of these in and see what happens, basically, is the idea. And a lot of people immediately click it and they go, that's not my avatar. That didn't spawn my avatar. I thought I was going to be able to spawn. I don't want to see your avatar. Jesus, size of that head. But yeah, it's just pre-recorded bits of me doing jumping jacks and various other things to trigger the IK and simulate the animations and have
You
all
was
the
sideways on, spinning around. I thought, what the hell?
yeah. Well, what's fun is they're in rigid bodies with gliders, right? They're sort of half meter by 2 meter tall, and you can stack them on top of each other, and you can grab them and throw them around, or you can disable the gravity, and yeah, they'll float, right? So yeah, have fun.
Yeah, it was just very strange. I thought, what have I broke?
Ah, yeah, yeah, it is
Thank you.
quite
Thank you.
quite strange the first time. Cheers, Pony. Oh, and Ark, away he goes. Go ahead, Ark. You don't see the previous version of yourself, I assume, no?
Oh, I do. I'm. It's very existential to see my whatever that is of me, my soulless
Praying.
Looks like you're
embodiment.
giving
Us.
yourself to the
I'm
toilet
praising.
gods.
I'm praying to myself. This is, very, I don't know, sacrilegious, existential or something. Anyway,
Lovely.
um, so when you were talking about like the flapping thing, that hit on something that I've been kind of curious for a while. If there's an interest in making worlds that are, and I mentioned this on, I forget where I said it, but the idea of having the next evolution like esports, because there's like a handful of like really cool adaptation things like baseball and football that are coming into VR, and that progressively have been different versions of that. But those are things that already exist. Like you can play baseball in the real world, and I respect the what it takes to bring that kind of mechanics to a VR experience. But it'd be cool if things like we were talking about the flapping that takes effort and stuff. If there'd be an evolution and an esport like environment and banter where it takes little physical effort and you're creating kind of a sport that literally could not exist in the real world because the kind of sports that we have are completely subject to physics and yada yada yada, all the things that the real world has. I think it'd be cool if we had some kind of platform where we could make a really interesting immersive trippy kind of thing that might be the next thing to catch on. Like, okay, here, this is a physical sport that requires to become a VR athlete. So it's just an idea. I don't have a specific as far as what shape that would take. It's just a very vague concept, but I think that'd be a really cool space to have, where like we've got the virtual reality Olympics, or whatever kind of concept. So just a thought. Let you guys suggest and deliberate on whatever that would mean and what the dynamics would be.
Beautiful.
I love it.
Beautiful, Ark. You know, it's interesting. While you were away, we did take a vote on how out there we thought your question was going to be, and it exceeded expectations.
Good.
Let's be honest.
Yay.
I think it's really interesting what you're talking about. I mean, we embrace physics here more than most, I think, and it starts to open up a whole new way of thinking of how can I take these building blocks of reality together and start to come up with a game, and simple things like, being able to slide or being able to bounce or things like that, which are physics based, uh, become a lot more viable, right? Being able to flap and having air simulated and having effort and all that's involved expending that. Fast forward 15 years, we've got a whole new class of humans with, distended muscles on their shoulders because of all this mad flapping they've been doing in VR, right? This is like the whole next generation. I can meet your energy level. I can go out there too.
And also employ things like the catwalk or the Omni One and things like those kind of
Yeah.
alternate local motion things that require physical engagement.
Or that new
which I know that
Disney one, which looks
or the
sick.
the holotile.
Yeah. Seems to
You
blow
could
the
create
rest of
a
them out
whole
of
new
the water.
evolution in sports.
Definitely. Definitely agree. I mean, I think it's going to be interesting, right? Because you've got esports, which has surpassed traditional sports in terms of the amount of people engaging with it, the amount of revenue that it's generating, all these kind of things. VR has the potential to bridge those two things back into each other, right? So it's not just gaming and typical sports. It's both in one. In yeah, and I definitely think in
And
the
that's what I'm
future
looking
that's
for.
huge. And then the spectator piece of that as well, right? Where we could be in some sort of uh, some sort of big stadium like environment in the future where we're actually watching people compete. And it's some sort of golden snitch like people flapping around, flying, grabbing things out of midair, whatever. Who knows? Do you know something I did see recently, which is kind of cool, and I don't think I've ever seen it before, which was 3D pool. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, actual 3D. It's like volumetric pool. You can hit the ball in any direction, and there's holes in the corner of this box, right? And you can shoot and hit balls in any direction. So it's if typical pool is 2D, almost every type of pool that's out there. It's really interesting to see them do that. Take away gravity from the balls, add damping so that they slow down, that kind of thing, and then introduce that extra dimension to it, basically, right? Go ahead,
Absolutely.
Static.
So I really like the parking brake idea that Klimo was talking about with the flying. That'd be great. It's all just sitting up there, just hit the parking brake and be chilling out up in the sky,
Parking
sitting on a
brake.
cloud pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah,
But also
yeah.
what Pony and Ark were saying, just when things start getting physical, I brought this up before, but that calorie counter would be a really great idea.
That's interesting. My CTO was previously the CTO of a company called YUR, which is a
Mm-hmm.
fitness company in the VR space. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that I think they have an interest in as a team. It would be interesting, I think, to be able to, um, yeah, to be able to leverage that in a physics-based environment where things like parkour and all
Mm-hmm.
these different actual physical activities. When we bring flying in as well, especially if it involves actually flapping,
Yeah,
that's going to be a big deal for fitness, I think. If it's fun and engaging and people enjoy using it, I definitely think that could be a big thing for
for
fitness.
sure. Yeah, I'd love it.
Yeah, definitely something we could consider. It's interesting. The parking brake. I think maybe that's a good name for it.
Nice.
But I actually thought, a similar feature is useful even when you're not in the air. I find this myself. Sometimes I'd like to plonk myself down on a chair and just stay there and then be able to stand up in the real world, go to another room, get a drink,
Yeah,
come back, sit down, and my avatar hasn't just randomly walked, into people across the
exactly.
room and that kind of stuff. So I think a parking brake is a great, and also maybe you don't want to be pushed into a portal, right? So you could
For
parking
sure,
brake
yeah.
yourself, and then people couldn't push you into a portal. Well, they could try as hard as possible, but yeah, we could make it so that it wouldn't work, and
Yeah.
but we won't
Well,
tell
great.
them,
Thanks a
so they
lot.
still think it works, and then they'll keep trying, and we'll even tell them, Keep trying." But
Maybe there's a
secretly,
chance, a small chance, like rolling the dice or something. Just
maybe,
once in a
maybe if
while,
they do
yeah,
it for
you win the
long
luck.
enough,
Luck of the
we'll let
draw.
them roll the dice, and if they do roll the dice, yeah, we'll disable the person's parking brake, and then they can go to town on them. That's fair, right? You put the work in.
Just
You've
for
been there for
moto.
6 hours.
Yeah.
Maybe
It's like
there's
a
a,
leave
there's a
hard
real
enough.
legitimate emergency. You need to move that person. So
Yeah, just in case they're snoring.
exactly,
Oh, so the emergency
just in
brake.
case they're
Okay.
snoring.
All right,
So
thanks.
you just put them on a hill, take the parking brake off, away they go.
Right on. Thanks, Shane.
What have we got for you, Kurt?
Hey, is there a way to like spawn people in the chairs and freeze them in there so they can't move or leave?
Yes, there is. In fact, we have a sit system.
Okay.
We're planning to overhaul it and rebuild it as a piloting system, which we hope can serve quite a bit better for multi-user uh, vehicle piloting, let's say, right? Where you can have multiple people sitting in cars while they're being driven around, or planes, or helicopters. I mean, all the vehicles, right? I could sit here and rattle them all off, but anything really where you could have multiple seats together, maybe roller coasters, that kind of thing, would be really big, I think, for that. So yeah, there's a basic sit system in there right now. If you've ever seen somebody looking kind of weird and sideways, but they're not sticking through a wall, that could be that they're using the sit system and they've turned themselves around. Yeah, it's not perfect. It's in beta, let's say, but yeah, the piloting
Sorry.
system will go a lot further to make that just a seamless multi-user experience.
Great. Thank you.
Cheers, Kurt. Welcome back, Ark. What can I do you for?
Something I've been meaning to ask for a while and I keep forgetting to bring it up is all the TVs like we have in Banter. There's a lot of free IPTV cable TV services like what's the really big one? Crap.
Pluto.
What's that?
Pluto.
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 Yes, Pluto. Yes, that's exactly the one I was thinking of. I know like Big Screen kind of has a bit of a partnership with them. Like if you go into Big Screen, their app, you can load up things from Pluto. At least you used to be able to. Is that something that could be used to like kind of give another level of utility and usefulness and realism to the worlds in Banter? Because like if you turn on a TV, then you can like actually have like a VR remote control that switches the channels, and take advantage of like different types of free to air services that exist. And it's kind of just like rebroadcast in an IP format through proxy on Banter, if I'm making sense.
Yeah,
just an
no,
idea.
absolutely. I would be really surprised if you couldn't do that right now today with how Banter works. I mean, basically one of the biggest benefits of Banter over most other platforms is our integrated browser capability. So the chances are that you could very likely find a web-based interface for Pluto or for any other service like that, for instance. And then it's a matter of honestly probably exploring if you can use macros to automate that so that multiple people can engage with it at the same time, or try to synchronize things so that if somebody's navigating through the UI, every time the URL changes, it synchronizes for everybody else. I think services like that, even streaming services, right? The real challenge is that not everybody can kind of sign in. And if they can't sign in, then they're not going to be able to access whatever the streaming service is. But if there is a service that you can use that doesn't involve that and allows you to get around that through some means, then the browser here is kind of the universal one size fits all solution for that, right? Anything you can get on the web, you should be able to get in here. And maybe we can do some work there to simplify that, or create an interface for that, or automate that using the macros I mentioned before, right? So yeah, I think we have a great advantage here in Banter with the browser that we can use, and the YouTube video player that's been I think a staple really in a lot of the worlds. It's
And
definitely
then TVs
useful
are
in a
actually
lot of cases.
TVs.
Yeah, exactly. And TVs could actually be TVs. And we're also thinking about setting up a radio station, which is interesting, right? Lee's going to man the radio station for us. We're going to have a 24 hours a day live broadcast from, let's call it Banter Radio. I don't know. He hasn't come up with a name for it yet, maybe. But yeah, we were thinking about doing something similar, right? With let's say Shoutcast or whatever, where you could have integration with internet radio stations, be able to like pull in a little audio source into your world that has that, maybe attach a radio model to it if you want, and be able to actually tune that in to certain stations so that you could hear it while you're in a world. And I just think it would be surreal to have a few people standing around listening to a radio broadcast in a virtual space. And that broadcast might even be coming from another virtual space running at the same time on the platform. So I think there's definitely some interesting things there to play around with when it comes to, broadcasting and consuming that kind of broadcast. So yeah, definitely stuff we've been thinking about internally. And definitely
Banter
lots of things I think you can do with the browser already without really having to change too much. Nice. Okay. We have a couple minutes left. I've maybe time for one more question. Go ahead, Static.
I just literally talking about that radio station. That'd be so cool if just like the creative musical members of our community could have a channel too, where you just heard members' homemade tunes, playing all day
Yeah.
long. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, I mean we could go all out, have actual DJs and do the whole disc
Meta?
jockey thing. Yeah.
Meta would be a good
Yeah,
DJ.
that'd be amazing. Looking forward to
What's
that.
that?
Meta, or who is it that has the radio voice?
Meta
Oh, Meta
voice.
Voice. I was wondering what you meant
Is
there.
it?
Should we call it Meta?
Yeah,
I was gonna say, well, it's kind of taken that name, isn't it?
Banterfy.
You probably get sued over
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Banterfy, I like it. Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Kurt. I'll squeeze one more in. Go for it.
Of course, I lost my track of thought, and now I don't forget my question. Oh, Unity. What version are you moving to with the new SDK?
Right now it's on the same one, though we are looking at trying to move
Oh,
to Unity 2022 as soon as we can. But
okay.
it will depend. It will depend. It shouldn't involve much changing. It will, same as the SDK. We'll want to make sure that everything works and everything's backwards compatible. Tell you what I'm going to do just before I forget. I'm just going to megaphone Faye at the back there for her to talk about her photo shoot event. And then we probably just have enough time to talk about Aline's event just after this, which is the 3D waffle event. So yeah, you want to take it away, Faye?
Sure. Okay, so in an hour and a half, I'm going to gather people up at Crystal Lake and have the opportunity to take photos of you guys all to be used in our YouTube thumbnails and our promotional ads and things like that. I just want a great variety of images to work with. So if you want to come have fun with me for a little bit, it'll probably be about like 5 minutes each person or so. It's a great time, and eventually you may see yourself appear on some of the thumbnails and things like that. If you watch our Banter VR YouTube channel, you'll see examples of these already and see what's coming if you want to join me. Have your avatar already set, go ahead and pick the avatar that you'd like to be in the photo shoot and show up at Crystal Lake in an hour and a half. We'll see you there.
Woo.
Woo!
Awesome.
Woo.
Thank you for that, Faye. Yeah, so after this, in a couple minutes, we'll be starting 3D Waffle Time, 3D Workshop with Aline, where maybe I can pass over to Aline and have her tell us about what she'd like to look at today.
I don't know yet. I hope we
There you
figure this
go.
out when we get there. Maybe we
Make your
can
own
look at.
adventure.
I think since some people already changed their loading screen on the new client, we can look into creating 360 panoramic images.
Yeah, that sounds really cool.
Yes. Yes.
Definitely. Quiet,
Everyone's gone
please.
quiet.
Shane, are you
Yeah, I
muted?
couldn't hear him either.
I might have been muted.
Hey.
Yeah, you were
I
muted.
might have been. And I might have been talking away.
Muted waffles.
Yeah. Okay, for anybody in the know, you can throw a PNG into your headset in a certain
Yeah.
folder and it will change up your background image on the new loading screen.
Oh no, it
th-
belongs to the. Oh, sorry. Talking. I wasn't muted.
Yeah, but yeah, we actually have some plans for that loading screen or that loading system that we've got. In the future, you'll be able to see your avatar in the loading screen. You'll be able to see your hands. That's something that we want to improve in there. And also, you'll be able to access your menu from within the loading screen as well, right? So that's something that, yeah, we're going to kind of really continue to develop that new loading system that we've got. And I honestly think it's great. It's a fantastic example of how, you've got that sort of capsule shaped or that cylinder shaped section that wraps around you. You can then jump around inside of that while all the extra mad loading stuff is going on the outside. And there's some really nice parallax effects on the actual skybox itself as an exterior, the cage floor on the bottom, as well as the preview image of the world that you're about to enter, right? So I think it's really cool. You can basically change that image to be whatever you want. I haven't initially. I did put in some resolution restrictions, but those didn't actually make it into the final build. So you can slap a 16K image in there if you want. I mean, I don't know if your headset will load, but we'll see. Uh, have at it. You can really get something beautiful in there, though. So yeah, I've got a black hole in mine. That's the picture I put up on the in the chat. And I guess we've got a prize giveaway at the minute, right? You get a free Quest game. God, we haven't even really put any details out about that. Like, when does it start? When does it end? What's the crack? Let's say, I don't know. 2 weeks from now, probably a good time to
Oh, wow.
give people
Nice.
a chance to actually play with it, right? 2 weeks from now, we'll see who's created the coolest loading screen. We'll come up with a channel on the Discord to dump in your pictures, and we'll pick from the winner and give them a free quest game and a pat on the back, and we'll give them a clap, and we'll
And we'll steal
I don't know,
their loading image.
and we'll steal their loading image, all of us, and sell it on the black market. But yeah, that's pretty much brought us right up to the hour, folks. Thanks so much for coming. We, as you know, we do this once a week. I'll wrap up now for Shoseki in the live stream. He didn't even have to tell me this time. I'm evolving, Shoseki. Everybody, turn a wave while we tie up all the
Shoseki.
live stream, and I'll assume that's us. I haven't heard Shoseki say anything, but I do see his hands moving around, which tells me he's getting that flyby shot. And we're clean. Nice.